we still needed to try it in the real thing. And that real thing is a commercial farm. And at the same time as Eric Thies from TS Electricals came to see me about the LED, we had an article about our research in Poultry Magazine, and then I had one farmer called Douglas Dijkstra that came to my office with his dad. He was taking over the dad's farm, and he was building a brand new barn with brand new colony cage system, and he said, I want to get your bulb. And I said, we haven't the bulb yet, because we hadn't done the prototype. He said, my birds are coming in April, and it was November. And he said, I want the bulb. And I did the most reckless, irresponsible thing that I did, and I'm glad it turned out okay. I said, we'll get you a prototype, and you'll get a 60% red bulb in your barn by the time the bird comes in. No insurance, no check, no contract, no CSA UL approval, no nothing. You know, we were like a bunch of kids. Let's pop them in and see what happened. And this is what we did with the first prototype here. It's a barn with 6 rows, 3 tiers, about 45,000 hens capacity. And we put those bulbs in. And then I let him follow his directives. I did not want to interfere with his management. The only thing I requested that he put some dark outs on the vents. I did not want to have outside light interfering with the bulbs. Everything else there was brand new. So we even did not have any baseline. And that's a problem in field try. We had nothing else to compare to. What happened? Peak of lay, 96.2% as a flock average at 22 weeks of age, and as Ontario requests, they were shipped out at 72 weeks of age. They were still at 90%, and his average, flock average, that's from his records, okay, was 342.5 eggs over 365 days. And I said raw data because I argued with my students days in and days out in how to calculate flock average in incorporating how many birds do you lose and when do you lose them throughout your production. And I'll come back to that maybe later. Anyhow, at the end of the day, no impact on the egg quality based on the grading stations, the results from the grading stations. 90% energy saving compares to his previous bill when he was using in another barn 60 watts incandescent. But however, we also realized the controller is key. Okay, and as was mentioned this morning, if you have 300 bulbs at 60 watt, and you move to 300 bulbs at 6 watt, you are decreasing your load by 90%. And you cannot expect the controller that was working for one setting working for the next setting. And in this case, having the right controller is very critical. And there are a few around that actually have designed controllers for LED and low load that work very well. A few new ones have also shielded the controller for what is called electromagnetic distortion, okay, where we have feedback from the bulbs that go through the line that could mess up the controllers, or harmonic, they're called harmonic distortions, which is the same thing. And so controller is really the key. What happened to the bulb? That was not good. This was our first prototype. It got coated with dust, caked in between the fins, and as a matter of fact, because he had his robotic feeding system that has a little air jet to clean the excess feed, it actually pushed the dust inside the bulbs, and we had dust accumulating inside the bulbs, and first pressure wash, they all filled up with water. So we said, not good, we need to go back to the drawing board. The spectrum looked okay, but the constriction did not work. For the next flock, this time I had the funding in place. I had, in this case, an agreement in place with him. I had a student in place to take the data. We could have full data collection, and as well, we had a compensation agreement with the producer in case things went wrong. And we had a redesigned bulb. Luckily enough, we got CSA approval for that bulb halfway through the trial because his insurance company heard from mouth, and you know how it goes, that, oh, Doug is using this kind of weird bulb in his barn. They came into the barn, they look at the bulb, they say, where is the CSA stamp? And they look at him, they say, if you don't have a CSA stamp, your insurance contract is void. And right about that time, this is when we got the CSA approval, Alex, about that time, and we had to rush and glued all the CSA stickers on the bulb, say, all right, we have it, we have the number. Anyhow, what happened? In blue is actual production. In red is just an extrapolation coming from the Lohmann, what is expected from that bird under those conditions in Ontario, which is never the top that you get. But at the end of the day, here, corrected for all the mortality by my student, we were at 336 in terms of his record that corresponded to 344 eggs flock average. But once we looked at taking all the birds and removing, not a simple calculation, we ended up with a 336 average. Okay, again, what we observed when we took measures of the hormone, even under commercial conditions, we observed that rise in estradiol towards the last third of the cycle. Again, showing there is something with this bird, which is true. We observed it 3 times in 3 different places under 3 different conditions. So this is something which is real is happening with those birds. And then on the little graph on the right-hand side, this is the percent of consumer grade quality. And yes, there was a little drop towards the end, but if you look at it, we dropped from 98, 99% down to 93% towards the end of the cycle. So not that massive of a drop. Okay, in terms of, just for you, to give you some ideas, now I put numbers together. And I did that quickly. If we put some numbers together, what does that mean? Well, let's say you have 6 eggs more, okay? And let's say roughly 2% more in egg production. 2% increase, that $1.90 a dozen. I don't know if it's the same price here that it is in Ontario, but if you have a flock of 45,000 hens, that's a potential increase in returns of $43,000 in the flock. And I can tell you, Doug was really happy with the way it turned out. However, 2% is not statistically significant when I do my trials in my little setting in the research station. And just recently with Alex, we also had another small little facility that put up the barn, and they're using the shaver line, the ESA line, the white line, the light. And the guy was peaked at 99% and has been at 99% for about, 4 or 5 weeks now? So we really believe there is something behind that. Now, feed consumption and growth, well, he was on the lower end of the feed consumption, and in terms of body weight, he was pretty much on target with the recommendation. Energy savings. Even if, let's say, you don't increase your production, if you look at just simply the energy savings, and in this case, I just look at using the Ontario rate per kilowatt. And what we saw, he had about 280 bulbs. Overall, using an LED, that would result in about $8,000 savings just in energy savings, which means you pretty much pay for your bulbs within the first cycle, no problem. And it could be even less than the first cycle. Compared to a CFL, in terms purely on energy saving, you still have a little edge over it. Okay, where are the bulbs? And I think there has just been a little change on that slide since I presented the presentation. Okay, it performed as expected, no dust and filtration, okay, and then we pressure washed them. We had a third-party cleaner, which is called Jenny Mobile, which is very popular in Ontario. The guys come with couple thousand PSI, and we said, can you please go ahead? We want to make sure the bulbs resist. And they blasted the bulbs first day, no problem. Day number 2, they cleaned the ceilings and the walls. And when they were cleaning the ceilings, some of the bulbs started to take on water. And we were like, that's not possible. We sealed it. We had a one-piece cast aluminum housing. We had a lens that was screwed and glued. Where is that water getting in? And as a matter of fact, here, when we looked at it, and this is it, what happened, the only piece that we did not think of that was off-the-shelf type of piece was the socket with the end button on top of it. And this is the only piece that was not sealed. And in the pigtail, what happened, the electrician did not put a seal when the wire gets in the pigtail. And the water dripped down the pigtail, sat around the socket, and found its way under it and found its way inside the bulb. So since then, we also had to redesign that end butt to make sure it is one piece sealed and the water cannot get in it. Okay, so overall here, I'm trying to wrap it up now. So what are the choices? Well, one key thing that I will say, the vast majority of those LED bulbs were designed for humans. They were not designed for a barn. And one easy way to see it, it doesn't matter what it says on the box. if it tells you that you have 5 years warranty and you read the fine print, and if the fine print says for normal usage of 4 hours a day, that means it was not designed for a barn. It was designed for your kitchen. Basically, we could not get Energy Star because Energy Star is for white light for human. The spectrum was outside of the Energy Star certification, so we went around to Manitoba Hydro, who does their own energy efficient testing. And I think, Alex, you got word last week that Manitoba Hydro has now officially certified the bulbs as part of their PowerSmart program. And we're hoping that we can use that with the other provinces to be able to also get into their power energy programs. Very important. And as a matter of fact, when we looked at, we had hydrometers that were hooked up to all of our lighting circuit to really look at the energy consumption purely based on the lighting system. On the black line, this is the cumulative consumption of incandescent bulb. On the green line, that was the CFL, and on the red line, that was the LED. And as you can see, we were over 90% energy savings using that LED compared to incandescent, and we even had a significant energy saving, although not that much, when it came down to the CFL. Okay, and as well, you pay for what you get in terms of dimmability, durability, and cost versus return in investment.